Conflict. Something we all hate in real life, but theater would be so boring without it. There's many ways that we show conflict in acting. One of the ways is through a simple build. Here's an example of what we call an argumentative build. And just so you can follow it, this is not Shakespeare.
Jerk.
Bitch!
Wimp.
Ballbuster!
Prick.
Good. Now, let's try this again, where instead, you can't go for the top right away. You got to build it and build it and build it until the end. So let's go ahead and let's start. Again, let's try this again.
Jerk.
Bitch.
Wimp.
Ballbuster.
Prick.
Good. That's an example of an argumentative build. Do you see how one line builds on top of another? Well, this was not Shakespeare. I bet all of you are going, that didn't sound Elizabethan. And that's probably a good thing. But now let's show you an example from King Lear. Thank you, guys. Come on up. Okay, when you guys are ready.
What's he that set thee here?
It is both he and she, your son and daughter.
No!
Yes.
No, I say!
I say yea.
No, they would not!
Yes, they have.
By Jupiter, I say no!
By Juno, I say aye.
Good. How'd that feel?
Good.
You see what happens with Shakespeare when he starts to build the tension of a scene? There's also another way he does that. It's by a technique called a shared line or split verse. And what that is it literally means one character is picking up the second half of a line of the other. And you see this in verse all the time. If you ever looked at a volume of Shakespeare and you see half a line here, then a character name, and the other half just next to it, that's why. You are literally picking up the line of the other actor and carrying it to its end. So, you want to play this again?
Mm-hmm. Sure.
So, the object here is, this is almost like volleyball. You've got to keep it up in the air. The harder she denies, the more you've got to persuade. Okay? Let's try it again.
What's he that set thee here?
It is both he and she, your son and daughter.
No.
Yes.
No, I say!
I say yea.
No, they would not!
Yes, they have.
By Jupiter, I say no!
By Juno, I say aye.
Good. Now, let's take just that last bit. And remember, you're talking to your king and your queen in this case. So you have to persuade. The last build was very good, but now you have to set it in. No, this really happened. They put me in the stocks overnight. They really did this to me. Your son and daughter suck. So that's the point of this. So also, you know what it's like to be in the right but being accused of being in the wrong by people who have authority over you? Yeah. Blows, doesn't it? Yeah. Okay. Let's give it a try.
What's he that set thee here?
It is both he and she, your son and daughter.
No.
Yes.
No, I say!
I say yea.
No, they would not!
But yes, they have.
By Jupiter, I say no!
By Juno, I say yea.
And the subject gets his head cut off, but at least he's right. Thank you so much, guys. All right. So we're going to take another example. And this is going to be less about conflict than it is about agreement and complement. It's going to be called the yes and game. Anyone who's done improv understands that if you start from a negative, the improv will go nowhere. So if I start an improv by saying, "Are you home today?" and the other actor says, "No," well, first they just screwed up the improv by saying they're not home when they responded. And secondly, that negative just kills any forward momentum the scene has. So now in this case, let's take a look at what happens if in between each line you hear a yes and. This is from Midsummer Night's Dream. And we're bringing back our first quarrelsome couple to give them a chance at being happy.
Ay me! For aught that ever I could read, could ever hear by tale or history, the course of true love never did run smooth. But either it was different in blood.
Oh, Cross, Too high to be enthralled so low.
Or else miscraft in respective years.
Oh, spite. Too old to be engaged so young.
Or else it stood upon the choice of friends.
Or hell, to choose love by another's eyes.
Or if there were a sympathy in choice, war, death, or sickness did lay siege to it.
So, do you see what's happening? The yes and the lovers are allowing each other to finish each other's thoughts, aren't they? So what else have you guys noticed as you're looking at that?
They are building their situation to be much more dramatic with each line, much more. The stakes are much higher.
How old are these people?
Teenagers.
What are teenagers excellent at? Building?
Drama.
Yeah! So the yes and needs to come from the two of you feeding into that drama. But also, there's a reality to this situation. You have to get out of there because, you know, Hermia is under the sentence of death by this point, which is one of the weirdest things. You guys ever noticed that in Shakespeare's comedies, usually the grimmest situations are set up within the first act? You know, Measure for Measure, the guy's sentenced to death within the first 20 minutes of the play. Comedy of Errors starts under a death sentence. You know, As You Like It, everyone has lost most of what they need most in life. Twelfth Night, she's shipwrecked. She thinks her brother is dead, and she has to disguise herself as a boy to fit in this society. We don't need to keep going. But it's just interesting to me that the comedies often start off in the darkest places imaginable. So in this case, what I want you guys to do this time is, Omar, you could even take more time. I, me, that's the Elizabethan equivalent of oy vey. Really. Yeah, that's another cross-culturalism. We all have expressions like this, you know, whether it's ay, 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 or oy vey, or oofta. I, me was that for the Elizabethans. So, and then wherever you have a strong, long vowel sound, like O, that's a dead giveaway that Shakespeare is telling you to make that a strong stress. And in some cases, technical alert, that's what's known as a trochaic line. And a trochaic line literally means a strong stress on the first word, followed by two weak stresses, so two unstressed syllables after that. And then it goes back again to a strong one. So, so let's take a look at this, although there are exceptions to this rule. For example, O cross is an example where that is not the case. But most of the time, when you have a long syllable like that, it almost always means a strong stress. Another thing, whenever you come across words like all, for example, all the world's a stage, that almost always means give it a strong stress. Or now is the winter of our discontent. Try saying that first word weekly.
Now is the winter of our...
You can't do it, can you?
Impossible.
That's why. And sometimes, you know, a lot of people don't realize this, but Shakespeare's verse is actually very much ingrained in our language pattern. Even now, we speak close to iambic pentameter. Sometimes we even do it unintentionally. Like if you've ever done a long night of working on verse like this, suddenly you'll find yourself going, oh yes, I must go to the fridge. How'd that happen? But it does happen. And it's okay, you'll just go, Shakespeare. It's in there. All right, let's try this again.
Ay me! For aught that ever I could read, could ever hear by tale or history, the course of true love never did run smooth. But either it was different in blood,
Oh, cross. Too high to be enthralled so low.
or else misgraft in respective years.
Spite. Too old to be engaged so young.
Or else it stood upon the choice of friends.
Oh, hell. To choose love by another's eyes.
Or if there was sympathy in choice, war, death, or sickness did lay siege to it.
Excellent. All right, so in Shakespeare, builds happen all the time, sometimes in very different ways. And another example is the split verse line. Oftentimes in Shakespeare, the builds will come as a complementary build, but also as argumentative. And one way he does that, again, is we're going back to our old friend, split verse. Take a look at this scene from Twelfth Night.
My life upon't, Young though thou art, thine eye hath stayed upon some favorite loves. Hath not boy,
A little, by your lordship.
what kind of woman is?
Of your complexion, my lord.
Good. Now, what happened there when you took the second half of his line? How did that feel for you? Was there any hesitation there, or did you just know you had to step in?
I had to step in. As Viola, I had to step in and derail that course of thought.
Yes. So it's an example of an argumentative build, but it's also complementary. It's saying, okay, we don't want to go there, and then twist it a little bit. Yeah. And for you, I would say, we're going to talk about this. My life upont is the correct pronunciation. Yes, it sounds weird, but Shakespeare was very big in a term called elision. And basically what that means is you drop the vowel off and just leave it as a contraction. For example, upont, upon it. We'll go to it has the very funny sounding term, we'll go toot. Sometimes it sounds stupid, but you just got to do it because otherwise it'll throw the other actor off. Now, in a case like this, my life upont, you can actually take a moment there. There's another Elizabethan pop cultural phrase. It's an oath. You're basically saying, well, I'll be damned. You're in love. So you can actually take that moment, well, my life upont, take that breath so you don't lose it. And you can actually, you see how there's those commas there, young though thou art? Take a quick catch breath there so you don't run it all together. So, and a catch breath is literally just a short intake of air that will give you strength to sustain a Shakespeare line. Now, it's true in musical theater too, where you're doing an incredibly long Sondheim line that makes you want to put your head in a gas oven. And if you don't take that catch breath, it's going to sound terrible. In Shakespeare, he gives you the tools to take short, quick bursts of breath so you can sustain the line. So, all right, let's give it another shot.
My life upont. Young now thou art, thine eye hath stayed upon some favour that it loves. Hath not boy,
A little, by your lordship.
what kind of woman is't?
Of your complexion, my lord.
Can we try something? What about you pick it up right away on a little, take a short break there.
Okay. Yeah. I get where you're going.
Good, excellent. And take your time with this, Greg. It has to be slow because this is, again, a fancy technical alert. We almost need a red alert sound for this. Yeah, thank you to the smart ass in the corner. The technical term for that is, what the hell was I talking about now? Slow it down. Because it's called monosyllables, that's it. It literally means a one-syllable line or one-syllable word, not an entire line. Sometimes though, and what Shakespeare is telling you there, that if you take it too quickly, you're going to trip yourself up. And I think that's exactly what happened to you there. So I would say, if you just look at the text, my life upont, breath, young though thou art, thine eye hath stayed upon some favor that it loves. And if you see there, the verse doesn't complete. If you look at that line, you have two beats to take a breath and assess what she's doing. Hath it not, boy? So basically, there's a built-in short pause there for you. So what you can do is you can say, take that and then look at her. Hath it not, boy? Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. So you can really take your time with this because you could take that moment to react. Also because you've got basically an iambic line is basically 10 syllables, all right? Sometimes it's 11 because 11 is louder than 10. But that's a whole nother ball of twine. In this case, so what I mean by telling Greg he has two beats to take a pause is that that line falls short. It falls short by a good couple of measures. And with the split verse line, usually you are just continuing the rest of those beats for that actor. So an example of an iambic verse line would be, oh, that this too solid flesh would melt. That's 10. Now in this case, you'll hear, hath stayed upon some favor that it loves. Actually, that's 10. Holy crap. No, that's why, because there's an elision there. Has stayed. Stayed. It's not, it's literally stayed. That's why. So there's not 2, it's 1 for you just to take a breath and look at her. So sometimes you make discoveries by actually looking at this stuff. So that's all right, but we all learn from it, and that's the main thing. So what I want you to do is take that breath because you've earned it. Let's take it again.
My life upon't. Young thou art, thine eye hath stayed upon some favor that it loves. Hath it not, boy?
A little by your lordship,
What kind of woman is't?
of your complexion, my lord.
You see what happened there? Now, let's try this one more time, and what I'd like you to do is pick up a little right away,
And
then take that beat. Then have that doo-doo-doo-doo-doo-doo. Yeah, because I think you've earned that there, you know? You could take that moment to, I can't look at you. All right? You can even take more time with it, Greg. And really punch up that alliteration, young though thou art. Again, remember, when we talk about thou and you, thou is a closeness. How does it feel, just in case you don't know Twelfth Night, Viola has had to disguise herself as a boy to fit in at this court. She is deeply in love with Count Orsino. How does it feel to be called out like that? To be told, oh, you're in love with someone, aren't you?
Yeah.
Perfect, perfect, yes. So let's take a look at that from, I want you to pick up a little right away,
Okay.
and then let the awkwardness sink in. Because if you don't let the awkwardness sink, if you run the line together, it's not going to work. But if you let the awkwardness sink in after a little, suddenly your head has caught up with your mouth.
Right.
My life upon't. Young though thou art, thine eye hath stayed upon some favor that it loves. Hath it not, boy?
A little by your lordship.
Yes.
What kind of woman is't?
Of your complexion, my lord.
Excellent. Yes. You see what happens then? Suddenly the whole rest of the scene gets even more awkward, doesn't it? Beautiful work. Thank you.
Thanks.